Your brain's social bonding protocol was designed for a tribe of 50 cavemen, not a database of 10,000 singles in the greater New York area. Today we'll audit the paradox of choice glitch and exploit the exact moment your inner hunter-gatherer rage quits modern romance. We will see why treating human beings like an infinite Amazon Prime catalog leaves you with zero connections and a severely depleted social battery. Hit that like button before your dating life softlocks forever, and subscribe to the channel. Protocol initialized.
Welcome to Bob's Default Safe Spawn, a crowded downtown New York bar on a Friday night. Physically, his fingers are resting on a sticky counter coated in spilled IPA and regret. Mentally, however, Bob is navigating the most hostile competitive multiplayer environment ever coded by man. He is currently executing a flawless speedrun of the dating app meta, swiping right at a terminal velocity of 120 humans per minute. To his Paleolithic brain, these aren't complex individuals with hopes and dreams. They are a conveyor belt of consumable goods. He processes a life partner with the exact same emotional bandwidth he uses to pick a movie on Netflix. Likes tacos and The Office. Generic NPC behavior. Instant left swipe. Use the wrong variation of your in the bio. Unacceptable hardware flaw. Left swipe. He is aggressively filtering out perfectly viable mates based on arbitrary criteria patched into his brain by TikTok algorithms. At this point, Bob isn't even looking for love. He is just pulling the lever of a digital slot machine. His dopamine receptors are so fried that the mere act of discarding humans provides a mild, soothing buzz. Every right swipe is a gamble, a desperate attempt to manipulate the RNG of the Los Angeles dating meta. And just like any freemium game, the system is designed to make you feel like you're losing unless you upgrade to the pay-to-win premium tier. Bob contemplates buying the premium pass, convinced that true love is just behind a monthly recurring microtransaction. But even with unlimited swipes, his social bandwidth is catastrophically overloaded. Meanwhile, directly to his left, there is a physical, three-dimensional female human. She is completely unrendered in Bob's perception, a ghost in the machine. Because why talk to a real person and risk a live-action rejection when you have a roster of 10,000 heavily filtered JPEGs in your pocket? It is a flawless, infinite choice glitch, a self-imposed quarantine in the middle of a crowded room. To understand why Bob prefers the digital casino of isolation, we have to look at the spaghetti code of the human mind. Let's open the hood and audit the legacy code running Bob's mating protocols. Evolution gave us version 1.0 of the social bonding OS, optimized for a local server of maybe 50 users. In prehistoric times, your dating pool consisted of Grog, who could throw a rock, and Thag, who couldn't. With two options, the brain easily calculates the optimal match. Grog is the objective meta. Fast forward to the present, and modern tech has force-fed 10,000 potential mates into a processor built for 3. This triggers a critical hardware failure known as the paradox of choice. Psychologists proved this glitch decades ago with a simple supermarket jam experiment. Offer a human 6 types of jam, they buy 1 and feel great. Offer them 24 types, they panic, their CPU overheats, and they buy nothing. Right now, Bob is standing in an aisle with 10,000 jars of artisanal human jam. His prefrontal cortex is desperately trying to calculate the opportunity cost of every single right swipe. If I match with Sarah, I might miss out on Jessica, who might have a slightly better Spotify Wrapped. Because there is always a hypothetically better option just one swipe away, committing to anyone feels like a net loss. Your brain essentially treats finding a partner like trying to pick the absolute best Netflix show before your pizza gets cold, resulting in infinite scrolling until the pizza is freezing and you end up watching 20-second YouTube shorts. To prevent a complete thermal shutdown, Bob's brain activates an emergency cooling protocol. It starts aggressively searching for completely absurd microflaws to eliminate options and free up RAM. She uses the laughing crying emoji in 2024. Obsolete software. Swipe left. Her simple pleasure is iced coffee. Unforgivable lack of lore. Swipe left. This isn't having high standards. This is the brain using petty excuses to reduce a massive database down to a manageable file size. The dating app UI weaponizes this biological defect flawlessly. It presents human beings in an infinite vertical stack, creating a toxic illusion of post-scarcity romance. But when you commodify human connection, you devalue the individual. Supply goes to infinity. Demand for intimacy crashes. Bob has essentially become a high-frequency trader in the relationship stock market. And just like a Wall Street bro, he is deeply unhappy, constantly stressed, and terrible at real-world conversation. The paradox of choice completely soft-locks his decision-making tree. The fear of making a suboptimal choice paralyzes him. So his brain chooses the path of least resistance. Absolute, unwavering isolation disguised as keeping options open. He is a man dying of thirst in the middle of a freshwater lake, refusing to drink because he's waiting for premium sparkling water. But then, against all statistical probability, a notification breaches his mental firewall. A rare event occurs, a glitch in the infinite void. Someone actually swiped back, the holy grail of the modern attention economy, a mutual right swipe. Instantly, Bob's brain releases a massive payload of synthetic dopamine, buffering his extremely fragile ego. The match notification acts as a digital health potion, temporarily healing his crippling loneliness debuff. For approximately 3 seconds, Bob feels like an absolute top-tier Chad. The algorithm works. But then, the chemical high evaporates, and a terrifying reality check triggers. He now has to initiate a text-based dialogue with a complete stranger. This requires actual charisma, a stat Bob completely neglected during his character creation. His fingers hover over the digital keyboard. The pressure is immense. What is the optimal opening gambit? A witty original joke? Too risky. High chance of critical failure and ending up on a Reddit cringe compilation. A sincere compliment? Too thirsty. The algorithm will immediately flag him as a low-tier simp. His social processor is thermal throttling. He desperately needs a low-risk, zero-effort input just to pass the turn. So, his brain defaults to the most universally broken conversational exploit in human history. 3 letters. 1 syllable. Hey. He hits send, aggressively shifting the burden of entertainment entirely onto the other user. Miraculously, the other user, also operating on exactly 2 brain cells and 0 social battery, replies, "Hey." The loop is established, the absolute pinnacle of modern romance. Bob executes phase 2 of the default script. "How's your weekend going?" "Good. You?" And just like that, the dialogue tree completely soft locks. There is no lore, no substance, just dead air. It is an endless volley of NPC small talk, equivalent to 2 Roombas bumping into each other in a hallway. Bob desperately watches the 3 little typing dots dance on the screen. The suspense is purely artificial. And then, the dots vanish. The conversation flatlines. He has been ghosted. Why? Because while Bob was calculating his next, haha, yeah, she received a match from a guy holding a cuter dog. The free market is brutal. Bob's stock just plummeted to 0 due to a severe lack of canine assets. The dopamine spike collapses entirely. His digital health bar aggressively drains back to critical levels. Immediately, his ego defense mechanism kicks in to protect the core processor from the reality of his negative riz. She was probably boring anyway. His brain whispers, willfully ignoring the fact that he literally opened with, "Hey." He unceremoniously closes the chat. The interaction is permanently archived in the massive graveyard of failed situationships. The thumb returns to the glass. The conveyor belt restarts. The casino demands another pull. But the real tragedy isn't that this single match failed. It's that Bob is secretly running 5 of these exact same loops simultaneously. Bob is currently multiboxing 5 different text conversations, treating human intimacy like a sweaty World of Warcraft raid. He believes he is casting a wide net, maximizing his RNG for successful spawn. In reality, he is running a massive DDoS attack on his own prefrontal cortex.
To understand this hardware limitation, we need to talk about Dunbar's number. Evolutionary psychologists found that the human brain can only maintain about 150 stable relationships. This limit is hard-coded. If you try to exceed it, your social processor aggressively throttles your empathy to prevent a crash. Now, consider that a typical Tinder user processes hundreds of completely new human faces every single day. The brain cannot distinguish between a real person and a digital profile. To your monkey hardware, every swipe is a new tribe member. So, when Bob runs 5 situationships concurrently, his social bandwidth is permanently bottlenecked.
He lacks the RAM to remember any individual lore, causing massive conversational lag spikes.
So, how is your dog doing?
He asks match number 3. Match number 3 does not have a dog. Match number 3 has a severe pet allergy and clearly stated this in her bio. Bob has mixed up the save files. A classic rookie mistake when you forget to label your virtual machines. The girl replies with a simple question mark, utterly destroying Bob's remaining confidence armor. Panicking, he tries to salvage the situation, but his empathy engine is running on fumes. He issues a generic apology patch.
Haha, sorry, wrong chat.
This immediately drops his reputation rating with the match to absolute 0. She unmatches. Now down to 4 active loops, Bob's brain decides the remaining conversations require too much processing power. To prevent a complete blue screen of death, his subconscious initiates an emergency tactical protocol. It is called ghosting.
The modern equivalent of faking your own death to avoid a minor social inconvenience. He completely stops responding to match 1, 2, 4, and 5. He drops them from his inventory like low-level loot. In a tribal setting, ignoring 4 people would result in total social exile. You would starve in the woods alone. But in the infinite matrix of dating apps, there are 0 consequences. The app simply refills the feed. The cycle purges his RAM, granting him a false sense of peace. The slate is clean. He is right back where he started, lonely, exhausted, and perfectly optimized for another meaningless swipe session. Meanwhile, the physical girl next to him at the bar has finished her coffee. She glances at Bob. A potential real-world connection sitting just 24 inches away. The radar pulse hits Bob's digital quarantine bubble and instantly disintegrates. He is too busy holding out for a hyper-specific, mathematically impossible fantasy. The brain has convinced him that settling for a real human is a failure, because a flawless, glitch-free entity is definitely in the next 10 swipes. Bob is currently running on a deeply corrupted cognitive patch known as the flawless Elf Delusion. Because he has access to an infinite catalog of humans, his brain assumes that absolute perfection is statistically inevitable. He is not looking for a partner. He is waiting for a max-level RPG companion to magically drop into his inventory. He demands a Tier 1 mythical being with 0 emotional baggage, infinite patience, and a perfectly symmetrical face. Conveniently, Bob's ego completely forgets to audit his own severely lacking character stats. To justify aiming exclusively out of his league, the brain invents a toxic defense mechanism, the ick. The ick is a psychological software bug that amplifies a harmless human quirk into a repulsive, deal-breaking crime. Bob matches with a perfectly viable, funny, and attractive human being, a solid 4-star drop. But then, she texts him from an Android device. The chat bubble is green. Bob's inner elitist panics. A green bubble? She is clearly a poverty-tier NPC. Instant left swipe. He finds another amazing profile. She volunteers at animal shelters and bakes her own sourdough. But her bio reveals she claps when the airplane lands. Lethal cringe. Disqualified. She used the word doggo in 2024. Unforgivable syntax error. Erased from the roster. This isn't Bob having high standards. This is Bob actively self-sabotaging to avoid the terrifying vulnerability of a real connection. If you preemptively reject every human for microscopic bugs, you never actually have to play the multiplayer game. The matchmaking algorithms are fully aware of Bob's pathetic delusion, and they weaponize it flawlessly. To keep him hooked on the swipe treadmill, the app occasionally drip feeds him a top-tier elf profile. She is a verified model,
with skin rendered in 4K resolution and a bio written by Plato himself. She is completely out of his league. The physics engine literally does not allow them to interact in the same spatial dimension. But Bob's delusion maxes out. He completely loses grip on reality and hits the premium super like button. The algorithm gently takes his $4.99 microtransaction and throws his super like directly into a digital black hole. She will literally never see his profile. To her, Bob is functionally an invisible background NPC, but it doesn't matter. The primitive brain gets the dopamine hit simply from observing the option. It is digital window shopping for human beings. He gets the thrill of browsing luxury goods without ever having to make a purchase. Bob is essentially playing a brutal, unregulated gacha game with his own emotional stability. He is pulling for a 5-star legendary wife with a mathematically absurd 0.001% drop rate, while completely ignoring the fully viable 4-star human beings currently occupying his immediate physical vicinity. Case in point, the real, physical girl sitting right next to him at the bar. She does not have glowing elven armor. She probably has a mildly annoying laugh and a complicated relationship with her father. But crucially, she actually exists within the standard physics engine. You can tangibly interact with her. To Bob's heavily gamified brain, however, reality is seen as a severe graphics downgrade. Why settle for a flawed physical presence when you can endlessly chase the pristine digital concept of perfection? The illusion is safe. The illusion never argues, never leaves read receipts, and never demands emotional labor. He is trapped in a self-sustaining loop of rejecting reality in favor of a slot machine that never pays out. And the corporations running this matchmaking simulation could not be happier with his completely broken firmware. Because they know one universal, highly profitable truth: a delusional user is a paying user. Let's examine the actual monetization model of the modern dating matrix. The core business problem of a dating app is simple. If the algorithm works perfectly, you delete the app. In corporate terms, finding true love is an absolute disaster. It causes a simultaneous 2-player churn rate. No billion-dollar corporation survives by actively destroying its own daily active user base. Therefore, the matchmaking system is explicitly nerfed. It is not optimized for marriage. It is optimized for player retention. It operates on the exact same psychological hooks as a rigged casino slot machine. Behind the scenes, Bob is assigned a hidden matchmaking rating, or ELO score. Because Bob opens with hay and severely lacks canine assets, his ELO is currently scraping the bottom of the bronze tier. He is effectively shadow banned from the high-tier elf server. His profile is buried underneath millions of better players. The algorithm drip feeds him just enough interaction to keep him swiping, but never enough to make him leave. This engineered starvation generates a baseline level of agonizing frustration. Conveniently, the app offers to cure this exact frustration for a small, recurring monthly fee. Enter the final boss of modern romance, the pay-to-win monetization model. The system falsely promises that if you just buy the platinum tier, you can entirely bypass your massive skill issue. Bob's desperation hits critical mass. The free-to-play grind is simply too agonizing. He enters his credit card details, blindly activating the premium whale protocol. The paywall shatters. Bob's screen turns a luxurious shade of gold. He feels an immediate surge of elite VIP power. He can finally access the forbidden knowledge. He can see the list of people who swiped right on him. He eagerly opens the queue, expecting a legion of top-tier matches ready to validate his investment. Reality check. The queue consists entirely of 3 crypto bots and a highly suspicious link to an adult webcam site. There is also one actual human user, but they live 7,000 miles away and are spoofing their location with a VPN. Bob's premium subscription did not make him more attractive. It simply gave him a 4K resolution view of his own digital irrelevance. He just paid $30 a month to see his rejection data in real time. Flawless consumer transaction. Then, an aggressive pop-up blocks his screen. You missed a match. Buy a 10 times boost to be seen.
The algorithm is now artificially withholding his profile, holding his digital visibility hostage for more microtransactions. The trap is perfectly sprung. The sunk cost fallacy fiercely engages in Bob's prefrontal cortex. "I can't uninstall now. I just bought the 6-month bundle," his mind rationalizes, digging the hole infinitely deeper. His emotional health is actively being strip-mined by server farms located in Silicon Valley. Every painful right swipe trains an AI to keep him exactly 50% hopeful and 50% devastated. He has been reduced to a biological battery powering the quarterly earnings report of Match Group. The digital casino is permanently rigged. You cannot outplay an algorithm that controls both the rules and the reality. Bob's social battery completely flatlines. The glowing UI suddenly looks incredibly cold and bleak. The gamification mechanics strip away to reveal what they truly are: digital shackles. He stares at a banking notification, a recurring monthly charge for unlimited loneliness. The cognitive dissonance finally peaks. The infinite choice simulation violently crashes in his brain. A sudden, radical hardware override activates. The primitive monkey code forces him to look up from the screen.